Hi guys, welcome to the channel, and during today's video I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about how you can set up an AI test driver to do some of your testing, which is far more consistent than running laps yourself. So stay tuned and watch the video. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Still here with my dodgy wrist, but through not being able to actually race properly, obviously it's very hard to stay away from obviously one of your great passions. Definitely racing is one of them. So I wondered, what can I do to try and at least take part in something to do with project cars too, while I can't actually race properly. So one of the things that I thought about doing is, what if I could get somebody else to drive the car for me, while I can still set up. I enjoy setting cars up. I spend a lot of time tuning cars, finding the right balance, setting the tyre pressures, everything down to the suspension, the dampers. I really do enjoy setting a car up. So I thought, well, maybe I could still actually set all my cars up for each circuit when my hand's better and I can get behind the wheel again. I could at least have progressed somewhere towards bettering myself. So I've spent a little bit of time whilst I've been recovering with my wrist problem, which is probably a severed tendon or a torn tendon. I've got another 2 weeks to wait before I can get an MRI. So in between, I thought I would set my car up. So I've come to a few circuits that I've previously set lap times on, so I know where my benchmark is. And the settings I'm going to go through here, I'm just creating an online lobby here because obviously that's where you do your craft. And I don't particularly think that setting a car up using time trial is relative to when you actually use it in a race. I seem to always be able to set a much better lap time during time trial than I can during any of the race. And so I sort of started to try setting my cars up during the practice session of an online lobby that I create. I'll just show you some of my settings I've got here. So I'm using a private lobby because it's just going to be me in here practicing. And I set the practice session up for a 2-hour session, and I don't really care about setting the race up really. I give it a date and a time and see, it doesn't matter. I never get to that section. All I'm focused on is using the practice session at the same time of day that I'm going to be doing the race, with the same type of weather. So in my realism settings, I'm using driving line off, default setups no, obviously all the anti-lock braking systems. If I was using my wheel, I would set the traction control to off. I still like to use the anti-lock brakes, especially for in the wet, and I'd probably end up turning stability control off, although I don't think it's actually a feature on the 911, so that's off during this session anyway. Damage I still have on full, mechanical failures yes, as if I'm going to be setting up my own lobby. This is what I like to see. Tyre wear for the benefit of what we're doing is set to off. Fuel depletion still as normal, and I'm not bothering with the cool down lap because I'm not really going to get to the race. So for the car, this is the most important section of what I'm doing here. Because I'm going to be using the co-driver, and I'm going to be swapping to allow him to do all the driving for me while I'm setting the car up. He is very precise. It would be something that you could possibly look at, and I'll show you in my video how the car for me handles very differently when he's driving it. But if you ever watch back a replay of a race that you've done and you sit in car of somebody else, the car seems to handle like it has no slide. It seems to almost be nailed to the ground, which is how this looks really. Probably to set the driver to ace or 100% would be more relative to how I'm driving. So if we imagine around here maybe, would be the sort of lap times that I'm setting myself. We'll do a test actually, because I managed to set a 205 lap, 205, 206 at Bathurst, which is one of my favourite circuits. So we'll see. With the Pro setting, he managed to set a 202, which for anyone that's done a lap around Bathurst, setting a 202 is pretty special. But it gives you an idea of the potential of the car that you've set up. So I bring this down to something that's more relative to myself and see what sort of lap time that the co-driver manages to set if we do a run at Bathurst. So let's launch into that. And I'm using RS Dash, sorry. So I'm going to be using that to have a little look at some of the telemetry, and I'll have a look at the telemetry afterwards to show you, because you can ascertain quite a lot that helps you set the car up during this session. But we'll let him do a run and see what sort of time that he's setting. So I've got to be honest, since the update, tyre temperatures have certainly differed. Or brake temperatures have differed quite a lot, I think. I'll just change this because I'm not happy with that, how that's set up. I think this is just a standard setup. So I'll just alter where I think is appropriate to my setup. I like to run a softer bump transition at the rear, usually with right down to the bottom and then 3 clicks right. We'll run 4 laps. I think the radiator is probably about there. Braking on the Porsche, I tend to like engine braking at around the 4. Traction control was set down there for now, and we'll leave that as it is. That's probably alright for now. So we'll save that, and I'll save it to something new, I think. We'll call it Pro Setup. Doesn't really mean anything, it's just to differ it from the other 2 that are there. For now, we haven't really got a lap time. And generally, when I'm saving a setup that I really like, I'll put Bathurst and I'll set the fastest lap time I've ever been able to get with the setup. So if you come to ready, and we'll take a roll out, what I'm going to do is select the in-car management, come down to there, and I'm going to swap the driver. Come back up, close it off. And as we pull out the pits, we're going to take a full-on right turn and go right back to taking a pit stop. So I'm going to select to take a pit, turn the car around. I'm just using the sound from the monitor here, which is why it sounds horrible. Not really bothered about getting a pit entry perfect. Just turn the car around, get it back in the pit. So when we pull in the pit here, the co-driver is going to get in, I'm going to get out. And this is another thing that happens. Remember to set your pit strategy. I've set it to Porsche 911, so it's going to add no fuel. You might actually drive straight out here as the co-driver taking over, because we just want the 4 laps worth of fuel in to see a relative lap time. I don't want him to be carrying 60 laps worth of fuel or 30 laps worth of fuel. And I'll just run through a few of the things that we can actually see that are relative, because while the co-driver's driving, I'll just turn this down a little bit while I talk about this. So you can see him setting a lap time here, and you can see I'm not driving. And he does take some strange lines, but he also carries a lot of speed through the corner. But you can see the car doesn't slide around. He's not getting any oversteer or understeer. It's pretty planted, which is definitely not how it handles when you're driving it. But on the RS dash, you'll be able to see already his peak power's at 497. You can see when he's on throttle or off throttle. You can see the peak torque that he's generating, the maximum speed that he's able to generate, and obviously you'll be able to look at all the lap times once you start setting them. But as you can see down here, there's literally no change to the brakes when he comes on. He's got fresh tyres, he's got his brakes up at temperature. Well, if we change the hood view, we can actually see what the brake temperatures are, and we can see something that's actually real and relative. You'll also find one of the glitches is the ride height on the front right never really changes. All the other tyres seem to be doing something, but they never seem accurate. But the one thing that I have seen is accurate is the brake temperature. The tyre temperatures and the pressures don't change at all. So the brake temperature is the only thing that you can actually physically see and set up or make a mental note of whether the rear brakes are overheating, whether the front brakes are getting out of temperature. So that's something you can see in this telemetry that we're seeing on screen. We can also see when he's on throttle, when he's braking, and the amount of speed he's been able to carry through the corners. So this is him about to set his first lap. And we'll just see whether it's relative to my own lap of around 205, 206. Not that I'm able to set that lap time with the controller. I think because you've got two buttons, you can't really feather in the accelerator and feather out the brake. There isn't a smooth balance between the controller. I think it's a real disadvantage driving with a controller for smoothness. I don't know whether anyone's got some really good settings for the controller. But if we switch back to normal view, and even on here I can switch to see what lap time he's currently setting, and he's currently set at 44.8 for his first sector. And generally I'm always looking to come out of here. This is probably a bad lap, to be honest. I like to be coming round this corner here at around 21, 23. So I'll be able to set the hardness of the AI to hopefully something more relative to my own lap times. But this can be helpful to give you an idea of what the car is capable of doing. So yeah, he's not going to set a great time here. Although a lot of people will be pushing for a 209 anyway. And see if he betters this lap at all. So he's done one lap and comes in. This is another thing that I don't like about why the AI does this. I haven't asked him to come in and he's still got enough fuel to do another lap. So we'll exit that anyway because he's only managed to set a 209. I'd like to see a 206 to give me an idea of what the car can do. So I'll come back to set that up and we go to the AI and give him a little bit more. Maybe 110, 90. See how that takes us. But rules, yeah, you want to have this competition license to off. And we could, I suppose we could even turn that off as well. Turn the penalty system off. But I would like to see them do something about the amount of laps the AI is willing to do. Because even if he's got 10 laps worth of fuel on, he only seems to want to do a couple of laps before he decides himself to come into the pit. But I would really like to be able to run the co-driver to see how much tyre wear is created over a certain amount of laps, which could be really beneficial. Without doing the laps, you could go away rather than doing all the test driving yourself. I think it would be great to get the car to do a lot of the test driving for you. So even if we go to the and put say 6 laps in, 7 laps, 8, let's say 7 laps. Let's see if you'll do more than 3 laps. So we save that. Remember to set your pit strategy. I've just got that set to no fuel and just repair any damage. So we'll take a drive out again. Select down the bottom, race strategy. And we're going to swap driver. So swap driver is to on, and then we'll go back. So as before, we're just going to do a U-turn here. You see, when I'm driving, I've got cold tyres, cold brakes. I'd also like to see that change as well, so that when you come out of the pits, you've got tyre blankets on. It's really annoying to come out and have to do a couple of laps on cold tyres just to get them up to temperature. You're spending about 3 laps getting them up to temperature, which is just a real waste of time. I think it should be an option to set tyre blankets to on, so that when you roll out the pits, you've got fresh, nice warm tyres. Obviously those in turn will have warmed the brakes slightly. So hopefully we're going to see a bit of an increase in his lap times here. Something that's, try and set it to something that's relative to yourself. This is going to be a bit better. He's at 125 there. So he's going to probably better his lap time by about 2 seconds here. Again, like I said, when we're coming through the next little bridge or banner, whatever it is, I usually like to say 153, 151. So he's got the 153. Let's see what lap time this gives him. So yeah, that's a pretty relative lap time to my own. So we can look at his brakes. We could probably add 2 notches off the rear, try and keep those a little bit cooler. See if he does set another lap here, since we've added some more fuel. I'd like to see a couple of laps. Obviously anything that's down here is irrelevant to when the co-driver's driving, but we can still see the fuel's being depleted, and also it doesn't affect the water temperature either. And he has set another lap, which is great. So he's going to an early 206. And you can see bettered his sector times on every single sector during that lap, which is still a great lap. But as you, like I say, as you turn up the AI's ability, with this setup, he's managed to set a 202, which is phenomenal, really. And I almost question whether it's actually possible. One of the things that it does tell you on here is the peak power and the Newton meters of torque. So he's managing to produce 497.6 for his peak power, and 452 for his Newton meters of torque. So I'll just come out of this afterwards and see if that changes from co-driver to co-driver, to see if they're actually using more power, which is obviously, you're not going to be able to put that sort of power down. So he's not going to set a better lap here. So I'm going to quit out of this and see if we get a better power output than 497. 497.6. So at least I've got a relative AI, it's hard to think what to call it, level of ability. So 110 is about my own level. Aggression 90. So let's pump that up to 120. We give him 100% on that. And then let's give it another start. So 197 that we're trying to beat. I'd just like to see whether the harder, the more ability the driver's got, to whether he's actually using a different car to what we're using, or whether he's still using the same amount of power. So 63% of the lap was at full throttle. 497 is the number we're looking for. And 452 really, which is his Newton meters of torque. Obviously the more torques you've got, the more power you're going to be able to pull out of turns. So we'll make sure that that setup's the one that's being used. So before the peak power that was available was 497. Well, he's already hit 506 peak power. I think it was 452, the amount of newton meters of torque that he was using. And now he's using 464. So it's pretty obvious how he's able to set such a lap, because he's not actually driving with the same amount of tools that we've got. He's actually driving a faster car here. He's not setting, I don't think it's a very fair lap. And the brake temperatures still fairly high for the rear. I really need to adjust them. And see what he sets here. So he's done a 2:03.4, which is a great lap, fantastic lap. So return to the pit box, and I'm just going to edit the rear brake temps just to try and cool them a little bit more. I'm going to save that. So the numbers we're looking at now is a 506. That's the amount of horsepower he's running. I'll just exit this and reload it. So a 506 and newton meters of torque 465. I don't think that when I reload this and drive myself that my horsepower figures are going to be anywhere near that. So straight away we've gone to 489. And we've got 440 torque. So I'm losing nearly 20 horsepower. And I'm also losing 20 newton meters of torque. So let's bring this back down. We said 110. And I think this was at 90. So 489, 441. I'm trying to remember those figures. We could figure that out ourselves. So this is running 488, which was about 489, 443 newton meters of torque. Slightly different for this for some reason.
Remember to take it easy on these tyres and you get some heat in them. Don't push too hard too early. Copy that, Nick. Request confirmed. We're ready for you when you are.
So we've got 498 for some reason now. .498 with 439 newton meters of torque. So I think the app's a little bit inconsistent, to be honest. So if I'm running 498, all I want to have a look at to see when the co-driver comes out is whether he's still running 498. I think that's the comparative thing I could take away from this. If it changes when he pulls off from this straight, I know I need to change the AI still. Again, we can have a look at how those brake temps are doing. Obviously we did 2 clicks back on the rear, so I'd like to see them running below 700 when they've done another lap. So you can see the newton meters of torque on this one as well, and you can see them getting up to as high as, you're still only reaching 489 on here, although it says 498 on my own. We can watch him power out of this straight and we can get a more realistic reading. The torques are down at about 428, so they're not right on this app. But yeah, the brake temperatures look much better, staying around the 500, 600 mark. So that's certainly something that you can set up during this session, getting your brake ducts set to what you'd like them at. Keep the brakes cool and within operating temperature. It's not really a heavy braking circuit. There's only two real heavy braking zones, I think. Let's have a look what time is setting here. So this is probably a little bit more relative to what I would set myself. .153 coming under the bridge. I think he's going to set like a 207 here. 206, late 206. Yeah, so he's in the 207s, which is still great, you know what I mean? Still a good lap time. I think for the more competitive races, you'd like to see a 205. But it's been interesting to see that the AI, the higher the level the AI you select, especially past the 100 mark, they're using a different car that's got more power. That's how they're able to go faster. So you end up having to better your driving ability to actually beat a faster car. So yeah, that was good to see. Good to see that the newton meters of torque don't actually match up to what's actually in the game as well. But you can always look at that just down here. If you haven't got RS Dash, you can see, just keep looking at the figures at the highest possible point they get. He's not actually getting much higher than 486, 127 on the newton meters of torque. 487 he's managed to get. But yeah, then you can go about setting a car up for a certain circuit. I just thought I'd show you that to give you an idea on how you're setting your AI to be competitive to yourself. You could also use the AI to learn a new circuit, find the braking spots, see if he's taking a late apex or he's hitting the main apex or an early apex. Could give you an idea on what corner gears he's using. And you can also use the telemetry screen to set your brakes up to help them run cooler. Using the RS Dash, you can see sort of how much he's on throttle, where he's off throttle. You can see what sort of lap times, what sort of sector times you need to be looking at to set a good lap time, where you could be losing. If say he's set at 207 here, 207.4, and he set his first set to 43.7. Well, if you know already that you're losing a second in the first sector, it can give you an area where you could brush up. Or if he's losing it in the mid sector, it can give you an idea where you need to be pushing harder, or where you need to be focusing on your lap time to better your own lap times. But I think you need to be able to set the driver comparative to reality, really, what the car is actually capable of for the car that you're driving. And I think with the setting that I've got there, that's pretty comparative to where I would be at setting a time myself. Not with the controller. I'm terrible with the controller. So yeah, I think maybe even setting that a tiny bit lower. I'd probably be looking at 105. I think that would be a relative figure for setting your driver AI to, so that you're both using the same amount of power. So I'm just going to see what this is on here, because I'm not exactly 100% that that's telling me exactly what's for real. Which can change that.
Roger that, hit now, we'll be ready when you are.
So we're getting RS dash says 146 this time. Let's just have a look what our own says. Best of, I think, 14483. Let's have a look on this long straight. I know we're going in reverse here. So 483 horsepower. .422 torque. Let's see what it's like when we drive into the pit, see how much he's got. So 422 newton meters of torque, 481 horsepower. So 481, 422. So he's getting 484, 424, 423, 482. Certainly closer. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, guys. I think the co-driver can certainly be used for other alternative uses, especially while someone's got a dodgy wrist, or while you're not ever be able to get on. If you can't race, you can certainly, just quickly turn it around and put it back in the pit, and let another co-driver do your testing for you. But I think testing it with the AI any stronger than what it's set at is counterproductive, really, because he's racing in a different car. So 105 skill level, 87 aggression. I think you could even drop that down, because it did go up a tiny bit, so maybe 103, 85. I think that would be a relative comparison to what you're actually driving yourself. So when you're racing in your seasons and you're wanting to be racing against cars that are exactly the same as yours, with drivers setting similar lap times to yourself, I think 103.85 should be a good fit. So I'll leave you there, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember to hit that subscribe button, and catch you later. Bye bye.